Thank you very much, everybody. A great, momentous occasion here this afternoon. Old boys catching up with other old boys, and it's marvellous to see. Could everybody please take a seat? I'd like to take this opportunity to introduce myself for those who don't know me. My name is Chris Harrop. I served 25 years in this building and a current member of Goldwatch, along with many Goldwatch members here today. And we salute you all for your service and for the current operational staff that are here. Now, for the Goldwatch members that are here today, if the general alarm sound, please do not try and get on one of the trucks. Please, it just won't work. Great to see so many people here at this event. Great to see so many ex-leaders here, current leaders. The first thing I'd like to do is read out a list of those apologies of people that wanted to come today that couldn't be here. Smiley Burnett, Maury Doughty, Cliff Mears, Alan Cooper, Kerry Gregory, Les Williams, Neil Matthews, Ian Young, Grant Campbell, Shane and Diane Adams, Jeremy and Judy Tapper, a long way away from this part of the world, Wayne and Barbara Langdale, Peter and Jenny O'Day, Alan Pidwell, Gary Houlihan, Les Mellors, Colin Prince, Kevin Burt, Graham Salmon, Jan Wills, Michelle Blacklock and Mitchell Brown. One of the things about Mitchell Brown I'd like to mention, take out today, is the fact that Ray used to say to me, Chris, what's that Mitchell Brown's first name? He could never think that the two names, he thought that was just one name. He always used to say when we're doing the duty board here, what's that Mitchell Brown's first name? So there we go. Nā mai ki a koutou katoa. Mon tēnā era purupuru aki ki tatatau rangatira Ray Warby. Welcome to each and every one of you today for being here, where we farewell our retired Chief Ray Warby, and sincere thanks to each and every one of you for being here to celebrate and reflect on the life of one of our past leaders. In his many years of service to the Auckland Brigade, joining when it was the Auckland Metropolitan Fire Board, to the New Zealand Fire Service, Ray touched so many of his peers and friends in so many different ways, as a firefighter, an officer, and a strong, fearless leader, both off and on the fire ground. Throughout his career, the big jobs seemed to follow Warbs, and he played major roles in many major incidents, including, of course, one of the infamous, well-documented tanker fire in South Auckland, where he led from the start to the end of the incident at the coalface that night, along with his entire team from out south. On a personal basis, I became involved with Ray, apart from being a firefighter, in a huge way with the first World Firefighter Games held in here in Auckland, and all the fire service open days. He conned me into taking on the role of Fireman Sam on News Talk ZB radio station for about 6 weeks, much to the ridicule of my colleagues. These were amazing events to be involved with, and were one of the most successful community events ever staged in Auckland. Under Warbs' skill and direction, working with a huge range of people, he had the perfect way of getting the very best out of people. I'd like now to invite the Anglican Bishop of Auckland, and for most of you known as Ross Bay from the Auckland Fire Police Operational Support Unit. Ross.
Thank you, Chris. And first of all, can I say it's nice to be the only one who dressed properly today. The rest of you must have missed that memo. Sorry about that. I count it a really great privilege to be able to speak today. I first met Ray when he was a DO and was organising the World Firefighter Games, the first games here in New Zealand, and he got the fire police involved as part of that to help out. And we got to know one another a bit over the years. Whenever he saw me at a call, or if I dropped into the office at Auckland City East, he'd always greet me by saying, "Oh, here comes the God Squad." And I know that he wasn't a particularly religious guy, but I always sensed from him, even in that joking way, that kind of sense of respect for who I was and what I did. And so later on, part of my offering to Ray will be simple prayer of thanksgiving towards the end of our event. Years ago, we had a new recruit in our brigade. He was really, really enthusiastic. It's hard to imagine that new recruits can ever be like that. And he needed a bit of managing. And I told him heaps of times that if he arrived early at a call, he wasn't to go and talk to anyone or do anything. He was to wait for somebody more qualified to come along. And one night, I arrived at a call in the city. I pull up and I see this guy standing on the footpath across the road talking to Ray. I was like, oh, I can't believe it. So just so I get out of the car, Ray walks away to do, whatever he did. And I walked up to this guy and said, oh, how many times do I have to tell you, you don't talk, you certainly don't talk to a chief fire officer. And he looks at me, his kind of lower lip was quivering a little bit, and he says, oh well, the thing is, I had to talk to him because he backed into my car. And it seems Ray had arrived at this call, pulled up on the side of the road. This guy had pulled up like 10 seconds behind him. Ray realised he was parked over someone's driveway, so he threw the Camry in reverse and bang, straight into this guy. Part of the point of that story, though, is it kind of speaks to me about what was the best about Ray for me. There was no great ego for Ray, It wasn't about Ray. It was about the job, and it was about the people, and especially the people that he worked with. So wouldn't worry, Ray. He'd talk to anyone, whether it was a new volunteer recruit or whether it was the national commander. Ray'd speak to you and he'd treat you the same. He'd treat you with respect. He'd be willing just to have the conversation if it needed to happen. He'd be the same Ray. Looking forward to hearing some of the stories. It's good to be together today for this moment. We've gathered with thankful hearts for a great firefighter, an amazing mentor, and a very, very loyal friend. Kia ora koutou.
Thank you, Ross, very much indeed. I never knew that. Where did the car get panel beated? I'd like now to welcome Senior Station Officer Dave Wood as the organiser of today's event. Dave.
Thank you. Welcome. On behalf of all the operational crews, I'd like to welcome everyone here. It's amazing to see so many people who were inspirational to me in my first 20 or 30 years in the job. I look around and it's the amount of talent that's out there. It's unbelievable. So thank you for taking the effort to come and remember Ray with us. I just want to acknowledge those who helped us set this up today. We had to do it with a bit of financial contribution. Gold Watch, thank you. You had a collection the other day and you raised some money, and that's certainly helped us get through it. Thank you. Club 22, which is the bar upstairs, that's contributed, along with the City Firefighters Mess Fund. They've also contributed. And there's been a couple of people who have given personal donations. So thank you to you all. Without you, we wouldn't have been able to put on the afternoon tea. It would have just been sausage rolls and stale sandwiches. So thanks to the crews from City and Parnell Station for sharing their station with us today. And they worked through their lunch just preparing this, and they'll be tidying up afterwards. Stacey Hart, he's the main man who's doing the cooking. He's on Blue Watch normally, but he's been here most of the day just getting the food ready, and when you taste it, you'll see what an amazing person he is. Josh Nichols, for those who don't know him, he's the sort of guy who, when you think you've done enough, he just taps you on the shoulder and tells you you've got a few more things to do. We got together earlier on and decided that we should be doing something to recognise Ray, and Josh has contributed in a big way to help us get this to where it is. And also Roger Callister, Tony Baldwin for coordinating Gold Watch and getting all you guys here and just doing the communication with you, and of course Chris Harrop for giving up his day and coming and emceeing this. So thank you all, and I look forward to catching up with you all later on. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. Okay, now I'd like to invite the successor to Chief Ray Warby of Goldwatch, who took over the running, or the chief officer of Goldwatch some time back, not too far long ago, when Ray started to become a little ill. And of course, it's taking over that, is doing an amazing job. I'd like to welcome Tony Baldwin to come up and say a few words on behalf of Goldwatch, and let you know that Tony, for those that don't know, spent a lot of his career in the station, and he was a works officer out of that little office over there too. And a damn good one.
I'll see you in there after. Thanks, Chris. What a great turnout. Warbs would have been very, very proud. I'd also like to thank Dave Wood and all the boys that put this together. It's a great decision to honour Ray in this way. I don't know that it's been done before, certainly not on this scale up that I know of up here in Auckland. Well done, and I'd like to ask you guys to put your hands together and show our appreciation of these boys on the floor. Well, when I was asked if I could to do this, a eulogy, I think is the word, and I had to look that up, and it said normally read. I thought, that's good, I don't have to remember too much. So I've written it down, and I will read it. And when I asked, well, why me? They said, well, you've known him a fair while, you've knocked around with him, you've done all sorts, so, and I'm more than happy to do it if I was the right guy. So here it is. I've known Ray since 1972 when I was a rookie at Parnell on Brownwatch. Ray was an SO Ponsonby on Brownwatch. As a result, I worked with him at many drills, exercise and incidents. I was stationed with Ray at Remuera and later on became his works officer, as Chris just said, here on City Brown. I've done a few extensions on and alterations on Ray and Marsha's houses in and around Ponsonby and Grey Lynn. I've also had plenty of good social times with Warbs, usually do with sports like rugby, cricket, fishing, jogging, and of course, many a session at the Prince Arthur or the Prince of Wales. Lots of stories from those, but they're probably best left to Club 22. We all know Warbs was a very highly respected fire officer, not only in Auckland, but throughout the fire service. When guys transferred from out of here, they seemed to take the legend of Warbs with them. He was certainly well known and respected. Everywhere we went, they knew of him. Ray was a great leader, no matter what the situation was. Routine work around the station, out on the road doing familiarisation, leading a rugby team, pounding the footpaths with firehouse harriers, crawling around in a building at a fourth alarm fire, skippering one of his beloved launches, either Sirius or Powerball, with a few mates on board, away for a few days fishing and a few beers. Didn't matter what the situation was, Warbs was Warbs. Nothing fazed him. Ray always went about his work in a professional, unflappable manner. If you'd done well, he let you know with an encouraging nod or perhaps a few words. If you'd cocked up somehow, you'd be told in such a way, one of Warb's looks was enough, that you'd take it on board and remember it forever, hopefully never to repeat that same cock up again. The comment was often heard in the mess room after a job or something like talking about the boss, and they say, he's a good bastard. You always know where you are with Warbs. Ray was dedicated to growing the camaraderie within the fire service. As usual, he achieved his goal. Some of the organisations that he either started, ran or played a major role in were the Auckland Fire Brigade Rugby Club, New Zealand Fire Service Annual National Rugby Competition, World Firefighter Games, Auckland Fire Brigade Firehouse Harriers, Auckland Fire Brigade Cross Country Run, annual run, AMFB Round the Bays, and the big 3-day Goldwatch reunion in 2009. There's probably others, but that's what I can remember. And somehow amongst all of that, we managed to fit in numerous pub sessions and after-match functions, the odd pub crawl. After retiring, Ray's huge achievement in establishing and running his beloved and very successful Goldwatch, Gold Watch started off back on 18th of June 2006 when Barry Brown, Ted Campbell, Mick Small, Smiley Burnett and Ray met for lunch at the Southport Yacht Club in Queensland. They discussed the possibility of forming a group of long-serving retired Auckland Fire and some often retired Auckland firefighters and giving an identity to that group. That all happened, and within a month or two we had a couple of dozen members. We now have 432. Warbs was very pleased when we reached the 400 mark, but in typical Warbs fashion he simply said, right, now let's see if we can get it up to 500. He was very keen to get more currently serving Auckland members to join so that numbers climb rather than decline. So if you're interested in finding out anything about Gold Watch, get hold of Roger Callister, Les Presling or myself, and we'll let you know what the process is. As you can see, Warbs was a man's man. He was respected and admired by his troops, his fellow officers, his friends, and even his bosses. Warbs, you're a tower of strength to us all. You're a great leader, great friend, and we all had a ton of fun along the way. We're all better off for having known you. Thanks for being there for us. We thank you and salute you. Rest in peace, mate. Thank you.
I'd like now to introduce somebody you probably don't know by his first name, but I'd like to introduce Michael Harwood to come and say a few words. Oh, hang on.
Saturday night. First of all, I'd like to apologise for my address. I've got a bit of a broken wing there, Ross, so I apologise for that. Oh, sorry. Okay, now Warbs, when I first came here in 1967 as a firefighter, Warbs, Smiley, Griff, they were the people to be. We all wanted to aspire to be those firefighters. They were tough bastards, the real smoke eaters of the old days. And we learned our skills having 3 or 4 house fires per week in Ponsonby and Grey Lynn. So I'd like to thank Warbs for that during my part of the career and how we passed that on to other people. But the main thing is I want to thank Warbs for his organisation of the Auckland Metropolitan Fire Brigade Rugby Club. He was great at it. He loved the organisation side of it, plus the playing part. We used to meet here at 6 o'clock in the morning on the tower. We'd run 20 up and down the tower, and then every third one we'd sprint it. And that's how we got ourselves pretty fit for our games we used to play midweek and on Sundays. And don't forget we were playing club rugby on Saturday as well. Then sometimes in the afternoon we go down to Napier Street School and do a bit of sprint work. So that's the sort of person Warbs was. He always inspired the other guys to get fit and be best at what we were doing. One of the stories I'll tell, rather than Club 22, it's pretty mild. We're on a club rugby trip in Taranaki, and everybody's in the rooms upstairs of this old hotel, single rooms all the way down the hallway. Me and Warbs were walking back to our room one night, and there was a cord hanging out bottom of the doorway. And I said, Warbs, what's that cord doing there? He says, I don't know, give it a pull, Ringo. So we pulled this cord along. Next minute, I've got about 20 metres of cord at my feet. Then the door swings open, and here's the manager of the hotel down there. What are you bastards doing? I said, oh, sorry, mate, what's going on? He says, I'm sitting there watching TV. Next to my heater goes all the way across the lounge. He says, so put it back in there and get back to bed. So, it was things like that made the old rugby trips organised, Warbs organised very well. I won't go into his firefighting career part because that's already been said. But I always take my hat off to Warbs. Like Tony and the boys said, he was one of those guys you always looked up to and always wanted to be like him. So thanks.
Thank you, Ringo. I'd like now to welcome the National Commander of FENS, Russell Wood.
I think Harrop's taken the piss putting Ringo between me and Tony Baldwin. So can you put this up? E mana, e reo, tēnā koutou katoa. Ko te pau te ka haere i te rā, ko te mata i te kaihari, te oranga. Night is the bringer of day, death is the bringer of life. It's a real privilege to be here today to honour Ray Warby for his contribution to the New Zealand Fire Service, the many colleagues and friends that Ray influenced so positively during his career and beyond, and the public of New Zealand. It's impossible to do justice to Ray's contribution during a 2-minute speech, but these are some of my recollections and reflections. And you'll see there's a continuance of a theme here from the previous speakers. I first met Ray when I joined the New Zealand Fire Service back in the 80s and was transferred into Central Command back then. Ray was the SSO at City Brownwatch and was already something of a legend and a much respected officer and leader of firefighters. As has been said, he was always very professional, set high standards both for himself and those he led and trained. He was respected for his competence, his professionalism, his integrity, and his direct, unambiguous leadership skills, if I can put it that way. To be honest, back in those days, for a relatively new firefighter, Ray could be a bit scary, but you always knew he could be trusted and relied upon, both on the fire ground and off it. Always to have the utmost concern for the safety and welfare of those he led. Such qualities, along with Ray's bravery, were epitomised by his actions during the Manukau tanker fire incident in 1990, where subsequently Ray was awarded the Queen's Commendation for brave conduct for his part in that incident. In short, Ray had mana. And if I take a moment, it's just listening to some of the comments already. Back in the day, you kind of thought Ray was indestructible and would go on forever. So it's quite confronting to think, that Ray has passed on. My next opportunity to work with Ray in a meaningful way was after he was appointed Chief Fire Officer and was given the Auckland City East Fire District to lead, and I became his deputy at that time. During this time, I got to know Ray much better and got to experience the man behind the legend for a time. He had a wicked sense of humour, genuinely cared about his people, and still had all the same professionalism and operational competence that he had always demonstrated previously. Sometimes I saw Ray when he was frustrated, and sometimes I saw him downright mad about something. What I never saw was Ray losing control, losing his temper, or losing his perspective and good judgment. I know Ray was highly respected by his various executive officer colleagues in both the divisional officer and chief fire officer ranks and assistant fire commander, and a number of you are here today. Of course, as we've heard, there are other elements to Ray's life beyond being an operational firefighter. Clearly, he was a sports nut, particularly rugby, and there were no doubt some notable fire service rugby tournaments that I will leave to others who were there to better describe than me. He was also a leader for the various Firehouse Harriers events and the famous Auckland to Wellington relay against the Aussies. As we've heard, Ray also played a huge leadership role in the hosting of the inaugural 1990 World Firefighter Games in New Zealand, and then for various New Zealand contingents travelling to subsequent games internationally. Ray was a team man through and through, and this was no more evident in his post-retirement role as Chief Fire Officer of Goldwatch, expertly keeping people positively engaged, involved, and together, both online and in person. Who knew Ray Warby could be so technologically savvy? I mean, that was news. Jenny, that was news to us, wasn't it? I will forever have very fond and positive memories of Ray and the times we worked together and the times I worked for him. And today you will hear many similar stories from many people who feel the same way about Ray's contribution. So Ray, if you happen to be looking down at this moment, on behalf of Fire and Emergency and me personally, you will always be remembered as one of the good buggers in life, who had a positive and lasting influence on the lives of many, and you will be forever remembered with love and respect. Our collective thoughts are with Ray's family. We share your pain and we stand beside you as you mourn the loss of a great man. Ray, kia tau tau rangimari e, ki runga ina iwi o te ao. Let your peace reign on all the people of the world. Thank you.
Would a special welcome now to somebody who followed in the path of his grandfather. His grandfather was known as Howard Burnett, who was an SSO here in City and Blue Watch in the 70s. Today, his grandson, Shay Donahue, will read a message from his granddad and ex-SSO Blue Watch City and a Gold Watch member, and Warb's his best friend. He nursed with him until his last hours. Shay, I'd like you to come forward now and read something from your grandfather.
Hello everyone, I'm Shay Donahoe, the most junior member of Auckland City Green Watch. I have the honour today of sharing a story on behalf of my granddad, Howard Burnett, or Smiley as we know him by, about some of the strife Ray and Smiley got themselves into together. Although I didn't know Mr. Warby personally, I have heard a great deal about the courageous man he was, and it is a privilege to be standing here today. This is from Smiley. Ray and I's friendship dated back to 1963, where we were flatmates and even best man at one another's wedding, just to name a few things. Like all young men in his youth, particularly of that era, Ray was not the level-headed man that he became in later life. We were known as Heckle and Jekyll, and both got into our share of strife and did stupid things, often competing against one another. Like, for example, who could chew the most smoke? The way to find this out was to stoke up the boiler, place old film in the flames and sit there, being unaware of the poisonous nature until we were dragged out. We were both sent to Ponsonby for disciplinary reasons by the 4th Officer Woodward, as SO's Scotty Mason was the boss and feared by many, including many executive officers of that era. One of our most foolish pranks together was when Casper the Ghost Key was sent to Ponsonby to pick up a load of rubbish to take to the Meola Road tip in the old Ford V8 truck. Whilst one of us spoke to him in the cab, the other set fire to the load on the bed of the truck. We then put on our gear and sat in the back of the F45 awaiting the bells to go down, as they eventually did. However, not to a truckload of rubbish that we were expecting. It was multiple calls to a petrol station on fire in Garnet Road, Westmere. So off we trotted. When we arrived, there under the petrol station awning was an AMFB truck with the load well alit, flames hitting the ceiling and blowing out, giving the appearance of the station being totally engulfed in fire. Putting aside the need to change our underwear, we got to work with 2 bean guns to extinguish. When Mr. Mason, in brackets, God, father figure, hero, and disciplinarian, all in one, questioned Fireman Key, he said he looked in the rear vision and viewed the fire, and being switched on, he knew a petrol station would have a fire extinguisher. We did as Sergeant Schultz. We both knew nothing. Thank you.
We've just had a couple of messages come in just in the last half an hour or so that we haven't been able to print. This message is from Cliff Mears. We'll all know who Cliff is. I hope the function today goes smoothly, successfully, and with a good turnout. Yes, it has, Cliff. I congratulate you and the team who have organised the gathering to remember Ray Warby. Can you add my name to any apologies list if distance prevents me getting there? My association with Ray goes back almost 60 years. We worked on the same day and together at some good jobs over those years. We also played rugby for the brigade back in the day. I hope you are well and still enjoying the job. This is to Dave Wood, not to Ray. I still clearly remember my days as SSO Greenwatch City. Have a great day. Go safe, everybody. Cliff Mears. Thank you, Cliff. I'd like to call Josh Nichols to come up for a moment and just offer some words of thanks to you.
Kia ora koutou, just on behalf of the Mena City Station on the fireman's side of the mess, we just want to say to you guys that with the bedrock of the Auckland Brigade and City Station, it's a privilege and honour to be able to host you guys here back in your house. Yep. Thanks.
Thank you, Josh. And we have a message from Mitchell Brown. What's his first name again? He couldn't be here today because he's doing something else up in Whangārei or Kerikeri or one of those places. So he's deputised somebody to read his 32-page email. Mr. Senior Station Officer Len Opai. Thank you, Len, if you would be so kind.
He's not joking. It is 32 pages long. So please get comfortable. A eulogy to celebrate a life well lived, and in doing so, farewell a friend in memoriam to mark the passing of Chief Fire Officer Ray Warby, retired. Kata maria kia koutou, nau mai piki mai haere mai, ko Mitchell Brown tōku ingo, nā kai whakahaere mōrea hapori te tai tōkarau rohe. Good afternoon, everyone, and to all in attendance and on my line. I apologise for not being present, but I've come down with a bug and a bit under the weather. My name is Mitchell Brown and I'm the Community Risk Manager for Te Tai Tōkarau, the Northland District of Fire and Emergency New Zealand. Tēnā koe rangatira mā rei, tū me ke aroha e hoa, te hei mauri ora, mā mua, ka kite a muri, mā muri ka ora a mua. Those who lead give sight to those who follow. Those who follow give life to those who lead. Having spent various parts of my just over 40 years New Zealand Fire Service and Fire Emergency career in roles and events that allowed me the privilege of enjoying, learning and being mentored by Ray, I share with you some insights to CFO Warbs. To begin with, can I ask you that you now look at the wonderful picture of Warbs on the cover of our service sheet, and perhaps with the following verse, I can share some of the person and the life and times that I knew as this very special man, Ray Warby. Because I read of a man who stood to speak at a memorial service for a friend. He referred to the dates on the service sheet from the beginning to the end. He noted that first came the date of birth and spoke of the following date with tears, but said, what mattered most of all was the dash between those years, for that dash represents all the time they spent alive on earth, and now only those who love them know what little line is worth. For it matters not how much we own, the cars, the house, the cash. What matters is how we lived and loved, and how we spend our dash. So think about this long and hard. Are there things you'd like to change? For you never know how much time is left that still can be rearranged. To be less quick to anger and to show appreciation more, and to love the people in our lives like we've never loved before. If we treat each other with respect and more often wear a smile, remembering that the special dash might only last a little while. So when your eulogy is being read with the life's actions to rehash, would you be proud of the things you say about how you lived your dash? We will find today that we will all acknowledge many facets of a wonderful life, of a wonderful man, and be proud of how Ray Warby spent his dash. Reflection. Here in Aotearoa, I reflect on a proverb and prose that is shared in Māoridom, and at a time like this, it is often said, ko hinga te tōtara o te waonuia tāne. A great tōtara has fallen in the sacred forest of Tāne. The mighty tōtara, one of the tallest trees in the forest, traditionally hold chiefly status. Ray, through his over 40 years of service in the Auckland Metropolitan Fire Brigade, New Zealand Fire Service, and lately as a Chief Officer of the Auckland City East Fire District, had risen to and earned the mana that we saw this chiefly status. Not only in terms of his role as a Chief Fire Officer in Auckland, but for his various roles to connect people and enjoy the company and relationships formed through the Auckland Fire Brigade Rugby, being a City Newton fan, being a Sydney Roosters fan, Firehouse Harriers runs, Pony Express run, annual Fire Brigade cross-country event in the Auckland Domain, 1985 Auckland to Wellington relay team run with Auckland, Wellington and Melbourne Fire Brigade teams, Central Command Sports and Social Club leadership, chairing the organising committee for the first World Firefighter Games in early 1990, Brown Watch fishing trips, plus much more. Personally, I noted on my transfer from St Helier's Brown Watch to Remuera Fire Station Blue Watch with SSO Warren Bailey, Senior Firefighter Willie Clark, Senior Firefighter Paul Kirk, Senior Firefighter Bob Lowry and Senior Firefighter Len Allplay in 1984 to replace Senior Firefighter Roy Kennedy's transfer to City Blue. That the 1980 Remuera Fire Station staff photo on the Fire Station Lounge mantelpiece had Senior Station Officer Ray Warby, Brown Watch, proudly posing in front row with the other Remuera SSOs and firefighters. Ray had since transferred to the premier position of SSO at City Fire Station Brown Watch and had a great connection with Divisional Officer Len Doughty. I was fortunate to have made a connection with Warbs through Brown Watch Firehouse Harrier runs and Brown Watch fishing trips. Being part of the team that completed the relay run from Auckland to Wellington in 1985 was a great experience to again see the mana of Warbs in action. 1990 was a significant year for Ray as he led the first World Firefighter Games event to high praise and worldwide recognition. Later in 1990, Ray's operational leadership at an incident epitomised many aspects of what being a firefighter is. Manukau tanker fire, with Shirley Young trapped underneath the burning tanker trailer, tested the operational skills of all who responded to the event. The successful outcome of the incident was captured with pictures by Divisional Officer Training Bruce Jones and on video by TV New Zealand cameraman Rex Wilmhurst. The iconic images of Shirley Young being placed in the ambulance stretcher with Senior Firefighter Roy Kennedy, Divisional Officer Ray Warby, and St John's Operations Manager Grant Pennycook epitomised the operational skills of all involved. It was a dream CFO role for Ray as his office and primary station to support was Ponsonby Fire Station, just around the corner from home. Ray and Marsha, who was working for TVNZ at the time, had the Ponsonby Potager, a guest accommodation unit at the rear of their property. Many local and international celebrities linked to TVNZ stayed with Ray and Marsha at the Potager. I'm sure they were both most hospitable hosts. In early 1998, the Auckland City East District was established as one of the super districts with Remuera, Ellerslie, Onehunga, Otahu, St Heliers and Mount Wellington fire stations. The team of Chief Fire Officer Ray Warby, DCFO Mitchell Brown, admin support Jenny Ford, Fire Safety Officers Chris Napier, Russell Dixon and Terry Castle formed a formidable team. Personally, this was the golden years of my career with this team of people and the 6 career fire stations with the officers and staff that we were responsible for. My role working with Ray provided the best preparedness for the roles that I moved on to. Ray and I would regularly undertake the Panmure Basin Fitness Trail for PT. Even with a fused disc in his lower back, Ray would grind out his ritualised PT session. Another ritual at the ACE office was the Friday morning cooked breakfast for the team in the office. It was Ray's way of bringing us together for a big breakfast and thank us for our efforts that week. Ray supported me as I became the inaugural National Recruitment Manager in 2000 and Assistant Regional Commander in Western Fire Region in March of 2001. A key highlight in Ray's life as a seasoned lotto player was his winning of 1/12 of Australia's $6 million for his Tats Lotto syndicate. This provided Ray with the opportunity to buy his dream 32-foot launch that was moored at West Haven. He certainly was Captain Warby, and on this beloved launch and upon his retirement and shift to the Gold Coast, he sold his launch. Ray retired in early 2004 with the celebration of his career, but his career of organising Fire Brigade connections went to the next level with the establishment for the Fire Brigade retirees on the Gold Coast of Gold Watch. This Gold Watch fraternity would catch up on a Thursday for the Seniors' Day for a discounted lunch. I had the pleasure of attending the Southport Surf Club Life Saving Club for one of those Gold Watch lunches in the early years. Gold Watch CFO Warby would, over the ensuing years, oversee the significant worldwide growth of the Gold Watch membership, and these days the New Zealand-based Gold Watch luncheons that are very well attended. Ironically, Ray's birthday was on May the 4th. It's Star Wars Day, but more significantly, International Firefighters Day. Last year on July 29th, just 3 months after Ray's 79th birthday, we caught up and spent some time reminiscing. Ray highlighted to me in his words, an almost unbelievable, and unbelievably, I'm nearly 80. Ray Warby quietly gave so much of himself to the organisation and others, and will be remembered for these values that he lived by, well before foreign emergency came into being. We do the right thing, kia tika, serve and support, manaakitanga. We are better together, whānaungatanga. We strive to improve, auahatanga. The UFBA acronym from the Latin word to serve, servimus, also described Ray and his fire service career. Service, efficiency, resourcefulness, valour, integrity, mobility, unity and strength. Finally, I'd like to share the fireman's prayer to keep Ray in God's safe hands. When I'm called to duty, God, wherever flames may rage, give me the strength to save some life, whatever be its age. Help me to embrace a little child before it's too late, or some older person from horror of that fate. Enable me to be alert and hear the weakest shout, and quickly and efficiently to put the fire out. I want to fill my calling and give the best in me, to guard my neighbour, protect their property. And if, according to your will, I have to lose my life, please bless with your protecting hand my children and my wife. Ray, your work is done. Rest in peace, but in your memory. Ka mahi tahi tātou, mo te oranga o te katoa. We will work together for the well-being of everyone. From the United Fire Brigades Association, kia kaha, kia kotahi rā. Our strength is in our unity. Nō reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa.
I will be sending an email to Mitchell Brown to remind him what a few words means. As much as it's a lovely content, it's great. And thank you very much for Len stepping in at short notice to read the Bible by Mitchell Brown, whatever his first name is. Call on Ross Bay again to come up, and we'll finish off this afternoon with a small prayer.
As you're able, I know Gold Watch members will be able to, the operational staff might not, but could you stand, please? And at the end of this simple prayer, we will keep a short time of silence, and then I believe the generals will go down for Ray's last call. God of all grace and love, we thank you for all who take risks and make sacrifices for others in their daily work, especially for the men and women who work in the fire services. Be with each one today. Enable them to respond well to all who need their help. We remember all who have gone before us and ask that their example might inspire our own service, that it might be offered with courage and compassion and with respect for all. Today we especially remember with love and respect our friend Ray, who gave so much of his life to this end and in support of those with whom he worked. May he now rest in the eternal peace of God. Amen.
Last call for Chief Forester Ray Warby. 2 assistants needed at the Great